Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
Those that want to be arrested but will not move, we will carry them away from the area.
Leave or face arrest. The message to pipeline protesters from BC Mounties. Also,
I hit the back of my head. I rolled completely over.
A Victoria cab driver arrested after allegedly pushing and injuring a pedestrian. And
I just spent the $10. It's 100% worth it for me.
grocery delivery wars, the battle for your online food order.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
good evening. We begin tonight with a battle in the north.
RCMP are urging people blocking a natural gas pipeline to leave or face arrest.
And reacting to the news just moments ago, Wet'suwet'en protesters say they are disappointed. Mounties will be enforcing an injunction to kick them off their ancestral land.
The plan is to use the least amount of force possible.
We encourage all of the protesters to abide by the injunction and leave the area, and they will not be arrested.
Exactly when officers will move in isn't clear, but protesters who choose to stay will have options.
1, a voluntary, peaceful arrest with no force being used that includes no handcuffs. 2, those that want to be arrested but will not move, we will carry them away from the area with very little force being used. If the above scenarios do not occur, our members will respond to the behaviors that are presented before them.
Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs and their supporters have been blocking the Coastal GasLink site, hoping to stop construction of the $6 billion, 670-kilometre pipeline. It's touted as the largest private sector investment in Canadian history.
The thought of them coming through here and possibly putting at risk some of our sisters and brothers behind the lines here, it's disturbing.
With the injunction looming, talks to find a peaceful resolution broke down last night between the province and the hereditary chiefs.
We obviously disagree on the merits of this project.
The pipeline has approval from the province and support from 20 First Nations band councils, including 5 of the 6 in the Wet'suwet'en Nation.
There are many First Nations on the pipeline route that are very supportive of this project, but the important thing is that we maintain dialogue.
While some of the Wet'suwet'en might be supportive, the hereditary chiefs say they have authority over their traditional territory, not band councils or the BC government. So whether protesters leave or stay when the injunction is enforced remains to be seen, but police are prepared.
Similar to last year, we will be filming this event with the use of body-worn cameras, handheld cameras, and from the air.
I'm sad for the enforcement officers who should feel traumatized by any actions that they do to violate our people.
Mounties are putting on a calm face, but history suggests an enforcement of the injunction doesn't mean the end of the road.
A First Nations man in Greater Victoria is claiming he has been the target of a racially motivated attack by a taxi driver.
The man is recovering after being pushed outside a local grocery store yesterday, and now charges have been laid.
Our Dan Burrett is live here with more tonight. So, Dan, what happened there?
David James Tailor says he was walking home from the Tillicum Shopping Centre in Victoria yesterday afternoon. He claims a bright green cab from Victoria Taxi nearly hit him as it drove through a clearly marked stop sign at a crosswalk. Tailor says he flagged the cab down, the driver stepped out, and that's when Tailor says things got physical and personal.
When he had thrown me on the ground, when he had thrown me backwards on the ground, he made references about just being homeless or something. And I'm not homeless. Just because I'm First Nations and I have a backpack and I have things in my hand does not make me a homeless person. But it definitely reinforces that people still look at us as less than.
Now, Tailor says he got a photo of the cab as the driver took off. He called police. A retired or off-duty officer was nearby, and he says he helped back up his story. Tailor was then taken to hospital and released with a concussion and a bit of bruising. Saanich police now say a cab driver was arrested and has been charged with assault, released on a promise to appear in court next month. We asked the force about Taylor's claim that the attack was racially motivated.
We've spoken to both the victim and the driver both yesterday and follow up today, and we have no information at this point to suggest that race had anything to do with this incident.
Still, David Taylor's wife says she is heartbroken and now wants taxi drivers to go to sensitivity training. Taylor himself is a cultural sensitivity trainer in Victoria's schools. Meanwhile, the manager of Victoria Taxi says they have contacted Saanich police. Anita, Mike?
Dan Burrett live for us tonight. Thanks, Dan.
A lengthy strike affecting thousands of BC forestry workers is now even further from a resolution after two mediators left the negotiations. Amanda Rogers and Vince Reddy say Western Forest Products and the union representing its workers are just too far apart.
Well, the mediator, I think, has walked away because he's frustrated with the process because Western Forest Products has not moved essentially any of their positions since mid-November.
The union says it is disappointed a settlement hasn't been reached. The mayors of Port McNeill and Campbell River, two Vancouver Island communities hit hard by the ongoing strike, are calling on both sides to resolve their differences. The province had said it would not intervene, but that could soon change.
I am considering all my options, and there are a number of options available under the Labor Code, and because at the end of the day, what I'd like to see is this dispute is resolved in a timely fashion.
Bain says the province will decide what steps to take in the next 24 hours.
Well, Uber and the city of Surrey faced off in court today over the city's attempts to stop the ride-hailing company from operating without a business license.
But as Leanne Young reports tonight, it's the mayor's motives that were questioned in BC Supreme Court today.
Uber's lawyer opened up the arguments by taking aim at Surrey Mayor Doug McCallum. Michael Fetter wasn't shy about it. He says the mayor wants to stop ride-hailing, at least for now, in the interest of protecting the taxi industry. The ride-hailing giant wants the judge to stop the city from issuing tickets to its drivers and fining the company, saying it doesn't have the authority to do that.
Last week, the city of Surrey issued warnings like these to Uber drivers. Then the city started ticketing drivers $500 each. In court, Uber's lawyer said it was shameful and embarrassing that the premier and other ministry representatives have had to tell the city it doesn't have the authority to stop ride-hailing. Fetter then referenced this press conference from 10 days ago where the mayor defended his position after being told he cannot refuse ride-hailing with or without a business license.
I think it has been indicated by the transportation thing that they do need to have a city licenses in all cases. That's why Vancouver has issued one. There's probably a couple others that have issued before they start. And so maybe the Transportation Authority Board has more authority actually than the government.
Uber's lawyer called McCallum's answer unintelligible and incomprehensible. In response, James Yardley, the city of Surrey's mayor, says it was unfair to attack the mayor. He said he thought the mayor did a, quote, reasonable job that day.
Yardley argued Surrey has every legal right to require businesses to operate with licenses, saying McCallum was only expressing his personal opinions. The judge challenged him, asking, doesn't the mayor speak for the city? Yardley said it's not up to McCallum alone to decide who gets business licenses. It involves council and a whole department, to which the judge asked, does he know that?
Uber's lawyer says there is no license they can apply for right now anyway. Justice Veronica Jackson will deliver her decision on Friday. Leanne Young, CBC News, Vancouver.
The car share company Evo is adding 250 new hybrid vehicles to its fleet in Vancouver in the spring. The company is hoping to add even more cars in the summer. The announcement comes as Share Now, formerly Car2Go, shuts down its operations in the city at the end of the month. Evo says it's stepping up to meet the demand. It claims 8,000 new members have signed up since mid-December when Share Now announced it was pulling out of North America.
Rising rents and rapid development are a familiar worry for artists and musicians here in Vancouver. The amount of art space lost every year is on the rise.
As Mickey Cowan reports, as part of our Treading Water series, artists are needing to be creative to find solutions.
Music is life for members of the Toast Collective. and keeping their rehearsal and performance space open is a labor of love.
We don't make any money off of the toast, so all the people that organize and volunteer, we're just doing it as volunteers.
But bad news came down a few weeks ago, a $200 a month rent increase.
So we just had to call out to the community for support, and we got it. We got support all right, yeah.
They held a 12-hour fundraiser, and patrons put enough money in the jar to save the toast, at least for now. Affordable art spaces like this are in short supply. The city says it's losing more of them every year to development and rising rents.
It's a crisis of affordability, so I think it's really challenging for artists and for nonprofits and co-ops right now.
Sales says since 2018, her office has learned of 300 artists losing their studio space. And aside from grants, there aren't many official measures in place to stop it. And if it isn't a rent hike, it's often the wrecking ball.
Who's been to the show before? Okay.
The Little Mountain Gallery. It's a long-standing indie comedy venue in the city, but the site is slated for development.
Okay, so the CBC is here to document the coronavirus, as we've covered. It's this guy right here. Get a close-up.
And for its performers, it's no laughing matter.
I don't even want to talk about it. I don't think anything's funny about this.
Ross Doak has hosted the Thursday night Jokes Please for 7 years. It's a place many local comics get their start.
I love coming here. It's a great place. I'd really be sad to see it go.
And while the love of the space is shared by many, managers are trying to be realistic. They're already on the hunt for a replacement venue.
The amount of space that we have and kind of its central location is something that is incredibly rare in the city.
The city admits these spaces are becoming harder to find. People like Doak think they shouldn't be.
Some people think it's inevitable that this venue is going to leave. I don't think it has to be inevitable. I think this should be protected. There's a huge outcry from people. I think that should be respected.
I'll just be eating food I like, like pizza dipped in coffee.
The city says it has a 10-year plan to build or repurpose 800,000 square feet of art space and have no net loss in total cultural spaces. But plans like that take time to put into place, time that not all of the venues have. Nikki Cowan, CBC News, Vancouver.
A little drizzly today, but not so bad, I don't think.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I was trying to see what Mike thought, but he's not answering.
I was outside for a while today, and I seemed to get pretty wet. It was that really wet drizzle.
Yes.
You know that kind?
I don't really know what you're talking about. But.
I'd love to know what a dry drizzle is like, but I know what you're getting at here, and really those drizzly conditions, those light showers, that is going to be the story for the next little while. Our snow story, it was fun for some of us, not for everyone, but that was a story yesterday. Now you're going to see that we're just getting back into our regularly scheduled precipitation. As I like to joke, current temperatures across the region right now, only about 4 degrees or so, maybe a little bit cooler than that. Vancouver International Airport only getting up to about 5 today, and lots of drizzle being reported throughout the entire day. Now, yesterday was showing how much snow had unofficially fallen. The final total here is about 11 centimeters of snow that we got in a single day. So that is nearly twice the amount that we would normally expect to get over the course of the month of February here in Vancouver. And while snow is not going to be a story for us anymore, it is still absolutely going to be one for travel along Highway 3. So if you're considering going out between Hope and Princeton tonight or tomorrow, you can really expect upwards of about 30 centimeters of snow to accumulate in that time. But for our forecast, well, certainly no snow, but we are going to be dealing with the risk for showers by about midnight. And then these showers are going to be continuing throughout the morning and into the early afternoon. But I do have some good news that we can all look forward to. I'm going to save that for when I come back.
Oh, very nicely teased. We look forward to that. Thanks, Brett.
You're welcome.
Well, Canadians are able to get their groceries in many different ways.
Yes, and so we are launching a series called Shop Talk, looking at the changing way people are getting their food, from ordering online and then picking it up in store to having it delivered straight to your door.
As Tina Lovegreen reports, grocers are becoming increasingly competitive in their e-commerce offerings.
Whoa, too close.
Life can be a little busy with 2 kids.
Oh, you're gonna show dance moves?
So when Laura Lougheed found out she can get groceries delivered right to her door, she had to give it a go.
It was just getting too difficult. Just the kids running around and around the grocery store is just, it's insane.
And for the past year, it's how she's been doing her shopping.
When you search for something like milk and you press checkout and you pick your time slot and just bam.
All right, take your frozen items here.
Thank you.
Retailers are fighting to be the go-to choice for consumers. Some offer deliveries within 2 hours, and in the US, Walmart even offers to put your order right into your fridge.
It means my time. It means just the hassle of packing up the kids. It's absolutely worth that $10.
But Canadians aren't quite as used to buying their food through a screen as folks are in the US or even the UK. But attitudes are changing.
It's about 1.5, 1.7% of all the food sold by grocers right now across the country that is sold online. So it's not much, but it is growing. Anywhere between 30 to 40% a year.
We have 150 of these vehicles.
Which is why supermarkets like Save On Foods are rewiring their entire system to get a leg up on the grocery delivery business.
It's also becoming competitive because if you're not doing it, it means that somebody's going to be stealing your customers that want that service.
They're doing things a bit differently. They don't contract out their deliveries, but have staff in-house that pick the food and then drop it off.
But by going online, grocery stores are missing out on something that they count on for profit, the impulse shopping. You know, those bags of chips that you weren't planning on buying but saw them and couldn't resist?
Which is what Lougheed likes about online shopping. No more impromptu purchases.
Way down, way down. I can spend half the amount of money if I do my online shop versus going in the store.
But still, she does go into the store once in a while without the kids, and it's a totally different experience.
It's like as good as a spa day. Like, I'm just like wandering around. People are like, oh, I'm so sorry I'm taking so long. I'm like, please take longer.
So while stores battle it out to become the go-to delivery option, there may still be something about rummaging through the aisles that can't quite be replicated. Tina Lovegreen, CBC News, North Vancouver.
And it's exploding. I mean, the percentages that we're talking about here, it's off the charts.
A lot of people I know use it. Have you tried it?
To be honest, no, not here. But when we lived in Hong Kong in the early, and they had it back in the early 90s. And,
early 80s.
You know, it was the early 90s, and yeah, it was just really convenient. But they didn't get the product from the actual grocery store; they got it from their warehouse. So yeah, it's a different kind of thing.
And tomorrow we have another segment of this, Shop Talk. It's called, well, this is called Shop Talk, but we're going to be talking about food prep companies and how they are changing the grocery game.
Yes, they are. That's coming up tomorrow. And just a reminder, you can watch this newscast live on CBC Gem. The free app is also where you can find other CBC programs.
CBC Vancouver is also on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram.
What was meant to be a pleasure trip has turned into quite an ordeal. A cruise ship is anchored off the Japanese coast as more and more passengers, including Canadians, test positive for coronavirus. A Richmond man tells us what life is like on board next.
Thanks for watching online tonight, where we are commercial free.
And tonight we have the final part in the CBC series Made to Last. It's looking at the slow decline of some professions due to technology.
In this edition, we meet Manuel Silva, a tailor who brings an old world touch in the age of fast fashion.
The time's right, 17, 18 years old. I have a dream. I want to be a professional tailor, get my own shop. 43 years ago, I went to a Canadian embassy in Portugal, Lisbon, and I put an application there, and they told me they need a tailor in Regina. My first food, I still love it today, Kentucky Fried Chicken. Economy in Portugal in that time is not too good, and I have two kids, Paul and Miguel, and we want to give her, you know, a better life, I suppose, yes.
We'll be making clothing at home in the basement, clothing and doing repairs for other shops at home. So we've been doing it for years, ever since I was born anyways.
I started here 33 years ago with very small space. So I start selling, from my start, 18 pairs of pants. Today I have in stock 350. Yes, we work hard for that. We build up good clients, and that clients never stop to come.
And I think that old world touch is a big thing that people can't get, no matter where you go. No online sales will have a master tailor that has been doing this all his life. Making things from scratch at home is a big thing, where he would just take people's visions and just make them up. It's actually pretty amazing to watch. Which my sister now, Paula, she does the same thing. He's I call him the ultimate salesman. And a lot of people can learn a lot of things from him, but it's just because he enjoys it, and it's not really selling, it's just talking with people, having some fun.
I love him every day. And come to work, it's just like, it's better than go to a therapy. I'm still too young, I want to retire 20 years from now. I'll be 91, so it'll be good.
Does nice work.
I love this series. I'm
Yeah.
learning a lot of creative people out there.
And what did I say? Was it the last one?
Yes.
But it's always available online. So there you go.
This is true.
All right, lots going on with the coronavirus tonight. We have extensive coverage coming up in just a couple of seconds.
Stick with us.
Two Canadians on board a cruise ship quarantined off the coast of Japan have now tested positive for coronavirus.
They're in a group of 251 Canadians who were previously virus-free.
Tanya Fletcher spoke to a Richmond resident who's a quarantined passenger on the Princess Cruises ship.
From the outside, you'd never guess the drama unfolding inside.
Please know that we are handling this situation as a top priority.
Nearly 4,000 passengers, but the corridor's empty, the foyer's deserted. The only sign of activity, health officials covered head to toe and cleaners disinfecting every corner. 20 passengers have now been infected, at least some already escorted off and taken to hospital. The cruise was supposed to end Tuesday, but instead, now another 2 weeks at sea. Passengers are confined to their cabins. Some have balconies, others don't even have windows.
It's a 3 meter by 5 meter room, and we can't leave.
Paul Mirko is from Metro Vancouver and diabetic.
And last night we got a form left at our door, and we're supposed to fill that out, and hopefully Ministry of Health will provide medications before everything runs out. I brought extra with me, so I'm good for 4 or 5 days, but that is a concern.
Food is delivered to each room. Meals, though, a concern for people with dietary needs like David Abel, who's also diabetic.
If I do not receive food soon, I will be in a diabetic coma.
He says staff provided him with what he needed eventually, but communication has been slow. Many questions remain, like how the cruise line plans to contain any potential new cases.
I can't see how they're going to be able to monitor this any other way than taking serious samples. Just temperature checks, to me, is going to be inadequate.
Concerns the Canadian government is trying to address too.
Again, we want to reassure the families both on the cruise ship that we are alert and engaged in their issue, and trying to work with families at home to reassure them as well.
For those trapped on board, the uncertainty grows day by day.
The other concern is just simply, at the end of the 14 days, can I go home?
For now, they have nothing but time to wonder and worry. Tanya Fletcher, CBC News, Vancouver.
And that's not the only cruise ship now quarantining passengers.
In port in Hong Kong, there's another.
As Chris Brown shows us, it's the latest crisis in a city on edge and increasingly locked down.
It was supposed to be a 5-day cruise to Taiwan for these mostly Hong Kong passengers, but their stay on the World Dream may stretch out now 2 more weeks. On the ship's previous voyage, 3 passengers tested positive for the coronavirus, and they may have infected the crew. We saw ambulances pull alongside the ship, and 3 people were taken away. Authorities say about 24 other crew members also show potential symptoms, so they're getting checked out too. We managed to have a quick chat with passenger Rex Louie over the phone. He told us he saw some crew members coughing and taking medicine. How do you feel? I think the way Hong Kong is handling this is very good, he said. We should cooperate. And the photos he sent us showed people on board appeared to be making the best of it. This community official who's monitoring the situation says Hong Kong can't risk letting anyone off the ship.
For them at this stage, maybe they don't have any symptom, but they might have already contracted and being contaminated.
Shortly afterwards, Hong Kong closed the port to all traffic, with 21 confirmed coronavirus cases in the territory and the infection rate growing. Hong Kong's chief executive took a decisive step today, targeting anyone who crosses the border from mainland China. The compulsory quarantine period will be 14 days, she said. What's especially concerning is that in some of the new cases, the victims had not been to mainland China, and authorities can't tell who infected them, suggesting there could be a lot of undetected cases. We can see the trend for the outbreak is worsening. On the streets, there's evidence a lot of people think so too. We drove alongside an incredible lineup of 10,000 people, blocks long, all waiting to buy scarce face masks for protection.
CBC's Chris Brown reporting tonight from Hong Kong.
And the numbers in China continue to rise. There are now more than 28,000 cases of coronavirus there, and 563 people have died. Most of those deaths and infections are centered in Hubei province.
Bad weather has delayed the plan to airlift Canadians stranded in the epicenter of China's outbreak. The crew of the government-chartered plane is currently on standby in neighboring Vietnam.
We have had to delay the flight by about 24 hours. This delay caused us to miss the narrow flight window the Chinese authorities are providing to countries who wish to evacuate their citizens.
211 passengers will be able to board the first evacuation flight from Wuhan. Officials say they have also secured a few dozen seats on a U.S. plane that will depart shortly after that. 373 people have so far requested assistance. Getting to the airport through local checkpoints is just one of the hurdles. Those on the flight manifest will still need to be screened and cleared by Chinese health officials. Once the plane lands at a military base in Trenton, Ontario, the evacuees will be quarantined for 14 days in separate rooms, but family members will be allowed to stay together.
A family of 3 from Port Coquitlam was among the 14 BC victims of Flight 752, the Ukrainian Airlines plane that crashed in Iran.
15-year-old Kamyar Hamidi, his mother Nilufar Rizagi, and his father Ardalan Hamidi all killed on board that doomed flight.
We look back tonight at their life and what they left behind.
They were so kind. Everyone remember them as their kindness. It's really hard for me. I don't know how can I even believe this. Like every day, anywhere I go, I remember them. She was so kind to me always, and we were so close. She was so excited to start this new career.
His signature was his smile. He was always smiling. I don't remember Ardalan without a smile. He was an extraordinary person. such a pity to see this tragedy.
He was just always so kind and always so like warm and like inviting. So I think a lot of people just like could relate, or I mean could look to him for like advice or for help.
He wanted to be a cook, great chef. He wanted to be a great chef. He was just so kind. Like always I wanted to hug him. Like honestly, I really miss him right now. I just wanted to hug him.
A deadly shooting at a Toronto Airbnb has the company scrambling to change its rules. How they're trying to beefing up security screening next.
Here are some of the stories we're following tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
The people who really have it tough are the ones who are in the inside cabins. We've got a view so we can see. But the inside cabins are smaller. It's a real low cell.
That Richmond man is one of 251 Canadians on board a quarantine cruise ship in the port of Yokohama in Japan. Now, 2 of those Canadians are testing positive for coronavirus. So far, authorities are saying their stay on board will continue until further notice.
We encourage all of the protesters to abide by the injunction and leave the area, and they will not be arrested.
The RCMP is urging pipeline protesters to leave a disputed area in BC's north or face arrest. Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs and their supporters have been trying to stop construction on the multi-billion-dollar Coastal GasLink pipeline. Tonight, protesters are upset the RCMP has decided to enforce an injunction to make them leave the land.
Then lifted me off my feet and threw me backwards.
A Victoria cab driver has been arrested after allegedly pushing and injuring a pedestrian.
Airbnb is testing out a rule change in Canada that would stop some young adults from using the site.
It comes after a shooting at a Toronto condo over the weekend. 3 people were killed, and it's just the latest deadly incident tied to the company's rentals.
As Talia Ritchie explains, the response is to cut off the supply.
The building back there, one of the buildings here, and that building over there.
You're almost the last standing local house here.
Serena Purdy says most of her neighbors have been replaced by strangers, visitors renting on Airbnb.
We have had serious safety issues. It's not just parties, it's the lack of community.
But parties were much of the focus today as Airbnb announced new measures to address safety. In the last 6 months alone, there have been at least 5 shootings at Airbnbs in the Toronto area. The latest resulted in the deaths of 3 young men.
Nothing we're going to say or do can bring back those lives, but we're certainly going to talk about what we believe we should do from a responsibility perspective.
Starting this month, Canadians under 25 will no longer be able to rent an entire home or condo within a local area unless they have a good track record on the site. The company is also setting up a complaint line for residents.
What we envision this policy accomplishing is creating increased friction for people looking to make those types of reservations.
The shootings, that's the tip of the iceberg.
Torben Weiditz is with Fairbnb, which advocates for fair short-term rental rules. He doesn't think the changes will stop the parties.
If I would be 25, I would have my friend who's 26 book the place, and then we would have a party.
But Airbnb says the new rules are based on their own data. And if it makes rentals safer here, they'll try it in other countries too. Talia Ritchie, CBC News, Toronto.
6:37, there's a live shot from Revelstoke tonight where the snow is coming down. Lots of snow for the BC interior. Precipitation for us on the coast as well, but not the kind that sticks. Brett will have the forecast next.
The weather update is brought to you by The Body Shop that always takes you back to your happy place. BC's favorite, Craftsman Collision, Air Miles, and Bigger Smiles.
All right, Brenda's here with the forecast. All right, today.
Okay.
Today, we can reflect on it if you'd like.
Well, do we have to?
No.
Not that much? It's drizzly and miserable and yeah.
And we have a few more days like that, but I did hint a little bit earlier, some
Yes, you
good
did.
news. I think we're actually going to get minimum two consecutive days of sunshine. Could you believe it? Do you even trust me right now? I don't know if I trust myself.
Nah.
I'm going to get into those details right now, but let's take a look back at what was this morning. Definitely no snow to be found, at least at the lower elevations here of the lower mainland. Some places like North Van, Maple Ridge, still dealing with a few residual flurries, some wet rain-snow mix going on, but for the most part, it was a rather drizzly day, and I think that's enough. We've had now 27 days at this point in time where there's either been a trace amount of rain or snow. So it's been a long time, and this trend is going to be going on. We're still for sure going to be getting a 28th day out of this. For the overnight period, probably more cloud than anything else, but as you're getting going tomorrow, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, yeah, expect that drizzle or rain to be there, and that's going to be continuing throughout much of the day, so no real surprise here. This is still the West Coast as it is in February, but by Thursday night into Friday, another brief little break is expected. The overall rainfall amounts here, I mean, again, compared to what we've seen in January, this is not going to be a lot. Worth mentioning that much of the lower mainland probably getting anywhere between 5 to 10, maybe 15, but into the Fraser Valley, Abbotsford over to Chilliwack, that could be a bit higher, maybe anywhere between, say, 20 to 25 millimeters. Now, provincially speaking, other places in BC are going to be dealing with some rain. This includes the west coast of Vancouver Island, our north and central coast, and Haida Gwaii. Meanwhile, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, as you head into the interior, that's where we have a snowfall warning in effect for travel along Highway 3, and even places like Kelowna and Kamloops and Nelson, these are all going to be spots that are likely to be getting some accumulating snow throughout the day tomorrow. And if you're looking for a place that actually has a bit of sunshine, that's going to be farther to the north. Anywhere, Prince George and north, temperatures very close to seasonal and a lot of sunshine to be found. In terms of our freezing levels, if you're considering going skiing, still going to be a bit of a mixing day on Thursday. Come Friday, we're looking at those freezing levels around 1,000 meters with 5 to 10 centimeters of snow expected. But yeah, take a look at this. Want to spend some time with you here Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, 3 consecutive days potentially with sunshine going on at this point in time. You're going to notice though that temperatures are going to be a little bit on the cool side throughout the overnight period, but I've got some increasing confidence that this is going to help allow this forecast to pan out. And backtracking a little bit throughout the rest of the work week, Thursday and Friday, still dealing with a few more showers there, but temperatures throughout this entire time are going to be pretty close to seasonal. So if you've been itching to get out in the sun on the weekend, I think this is going to be the one to be saving on your calendar, and hopefully all of us can get out and enjoy it.
We really hope so. Thanks, Brett.
You're welcome.
Why did this plane crash after landing at Istanbul's airport, and what caused it to break apart? We take you to Turkey next.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox. On March 1st, join Mike Killeen at the Step Up Challenge. Climb the MNP Tower and help raise funds to improve detection, treatment, and survivorship of prostate cancer. And celebrate International Women's Week with Anita Bathe at West Coast Leafs Equality Breakfast on March 6th. Get ready to be inspired at this one-of-a-kind event. For more, check us out online, cbc.ca/BC.
3 people are dead after a crowded airliner overshot the runway and broke apart in Istanbul, Turkey.
World Report host Neil Koksal has long covered Turkey for CBC News, and as she tells us, it could have been dramatically worse.
This is the moment Pegasus Airlines Flight 2193 sped across the runway's surface. Slick from the February rain, the plane propelled by the night's heavy winds. It just couldn't stop.
Mevkide bir 30-40 metrelik.
Istanbul's governor Ali Yerlikaya says the plane then tumbled off the runway, sliding into a ditch 30 to 40 meters below. The Boeing 737 broke into 3 pieces. Those gaping holes and jagged edges remarkably became the escape route for some of the terrified passengers. Doğuş Bilgiç is one of them. It was total chaos. People who were doing well helped the others a lot, he said in an interview with Turkish network NTV. Turkish officials say the plane was carrying 183 passengers and crew, including 2 babies. But incredibly, though most of the passengers were hurt, most of their injuries are listed as minor.
Considering the circumstances, it's actually probably quite remarkable the airplane wasn't in worse shape.
Judson Rollins studies airline safety.
In all probability, it looks like the pilots landed too fast and too far down the runway to be able to stop the airplane safely.
This is the 3rd similar and recent incident for the discount airline. Just last month at this same airport, another Pegasus plane slid off the runway. No one was hurt. In 2018, these stunning images made headlines. A Pegasus flight nearly plunged into the waters below after sliding off the runway in the country's Black Sea city of Trabzon. No one was killed. Each incredibly close calls, full disaster averted, but this time, deadly. Turkish prosecutors say they are investigating. Neil Koksal, CBC News, Toronto.
Elsewhere in Turkey, at least 33 people trying to rescue victims of an avalanche were killed when they were swept beneath the snow by a second avalanche. The number of fatalities in both slides is now at least 38. 8 survivors were found in the first avalanche, but 5 lives were lost. Dozens of people worked on the rescue attempts. Snow up to 5 meters deep buried cars, knocking some of them over. Rescue efforts are ongoing.
And Hollywood icon Kirk Douglas has died. The actor's career spanned nearly 70 years. He rose to fame in the 1950s and 60s, earning 3 Academy Award nominations. Douglas starred in more than 80 movies, including Spartacus and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. In 1996, he suffered from a stroke. That was the same year he received an honorary Academy Award for Lifetime Achievement. Kirk Douglas was 103 years old.
Amazing career, amazing life, and survived by his wife, Anne, who he was married to for 65 amazing years.
Wow. And he also survived not only the stroke, but also a helicopter crash at age 75. So 103, pretty good life.
I had lunch with him in New York.
No, you didn't.
Well, not with him. We were sitting at the table beside him. This was about 15 years ago. So he would have been in his 80s at that point in time, but he was looking good. So well done, Kirk Douglas, 103. The U.S. impeachment process that began back in September finally came to a close today. The Republican-controlled Senate has acquitted President Donald Trump on 2 charges.
The result, unsurprising perhaps, but as the CBC's Derek Stoffel reports, there was one vote that did raise some eyebrows.
Each senator, when his or her name is called, will stand in his or her place and vote guilty or not guilty.
This is only the third time in the 244-year-long history of the United States that senators have stood up to be counted in a vote to remove a sitting president from office. The outcome, though, not at all surprising. Republicans control the Senate, and they fell in line to acquit Donald Trump. Though there was some drama today, Republican Senator Mitt Romney, a longtime Trump critic, voted to remove the president from office.
As a senator juror, I swore an oath before God to exercise impartial justice. I am profoundly religious. My faith is at the heart of who I am. I knew from the outset that being tasked with judging the president, the leader of my own party, would be the most difficult decision I have ever faced.
Mr. Romney.
Guilty.
Mr. Romney, guilty.
For most Democrats, the choice was much easier. They're still complaining that this trial was deeply unfair, as Republicans would not allow for witnesses such as the former National Security Advisor John Bolton to give testimony. This senator, though, faced a particularly difficult choice. Even though his seat in the deep red state of Alabama is seen as vulnerable, he stuck with his party and voted to oust the president.
I'm also mindful that when our founders wrote the Constitution, they envisioned a time, or at least a possibility, that our democracy would be more damaged if we failed to impeach and remove a president. Such is the moment in history that we face today.
Mr. Jones.
Guilty.
Mr. Jones, guilty.
The Democrats were, in the end, unsuccessful in their bid to force Trump from office. But even with this vote now over, they're not giving up. A top Democrat leader vowed to expand the House investigation into the president, that it's likely that John Bolton will face a subpoena to give testimony. The impeachment process may be over, but that just signals that the fight for control of the White House has only begun. Derek Stoffel, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, it's an unusual show that puts you front and center. Meet the puppeteer who's putting the art into your hands next. Canadian puppet master Ronnie Burkett is in Vancouver with his troupe of handmade marionettes for the next month.
The Order of Canada recipient's new show offers audiences a one-of-a-kind interactive experience with his puppets.
Burkett spoke to CBC News about the creative inspiration behind his theatrical love letter, Forget Me Not.
As I was writing this, I thought, how can I make a piece that's truly immersive, where the audience has to be involved? I don't want technicians here at a table in the corner doing sound and lights, because then it's a piece of theater and it just looks like we stuck it somewhere. So the only lighting we have are these lights that we hang, and then there's flashlights for the audience to light the puppets. So John Elkhorn composed the music and got a group of musicians together and recorded it, and then we had them pressed. So when I say maestro, music please, anyone in the audience is encouraged to get up and put the record on. You know, to give the audience the puppet and say, just hold it and walk away is, I think, extraordinary. It's a trust level between the performer and the people who don't want to drop this. I have no comfort zone. I don't have any of my old tricks. There's no backstage ritual. There's no walk on stage with them sitting out there and I can do my thing. There's no comfort zone, because once it starts, I'm walking around and interacting with 100 people. And that's 100 different personalities who've all had a day, who all have a life experience. I think the most expensive puppet in the show that's on stage for about 15 seconds is this bear on a unicycle who can ride the unicycle, play the cymbals, and his head spins. And I wish I could show you the understructure, because it's all beautiful aluminum and steel and 3D printed things to make all of this happen, but we just covered it up and make it look like a big stuffed toy. But what we find is people don't want to say goodbye. And so when they have to put them back here, it's very tender sometimes of seeing how people regard their farewell with their other, and you know, and how they lay it back in the thing. I think the biggest surprise is a lot of people in my world said, what? You're going to give people puppets during the show and you're going to let them hold the marionettes, and what if they drop them? And I said, they're not going to. I actually know audiences well enough that if you give someone something beautiful, they're going to take that seriously, and that's as authentic as you can get. So I think the surprise is how people regard this stuff seriously in the moment it happens. And that, I think, is where the real immersion comes, because I'm a sweater. I'm really sweaty 10 minutes into the show, and I'm closer than this to most people during the show. So if I come up to you and say, please hold that, there's no bartering about it. It's like, please hold that, and I walk away, and I trust that you're going to hold it, and people do.
It's amazing. He's very gifted.
Very gifted. And producer Matthew tells us that if you want to buy tickets, you buy them, and you don't actually
tell you where the venue.
Yeah, you don't actually know where it's happening at.
Secret venue.
We have to check it out.
Mysterious. Very nice. Here all month in Vancouver. Just a reminder, you can always find this news program online, cbc.ca/BC.
Dan Burt's here at 11 after the National. Have a good night.
Good night.